Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Now, this is a bona fide fact. The older you get, the tougher it is to lose weight. Because by then, your body and your fat have gotten to be really good friends. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance on a Tuesday. Good morning. There you go. Wonderful lady Kate Smith, and God bless America. Good morning. What a beautiful, beautiful morning outside. Welcome to Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers like Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service 734-6969. Right now, without further ado, let's go to the telephone and get our Pledge of Allegiance person on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, Jerry.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless you, my dear friend, and thank you for calling in. I thank all my pledgers, and have a great day, Jerry. Thank you very much.
You have a great one, too. And may the Lord bless you and all of yours.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Very well done. Right now, it's time for the weather, and the weather brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Oh, my goodness, Kyle and Whitney, they've got everything. They can help you with your individual and personal ideas to how to make your house a home. I mean, they're so sharp. And carpet and flooring and kitchen construction and home decor items, really, really give them a call or stop in. They can help you. Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. And right now, here's the lovely Gina with the weather.
Another beautiful day here in our area, and today is going to be nice. A little bit on the humid side if it feels like it's a little bit muggy. That's because humidity is sitting at about 60%. Sunny is what we're expecting for today. High of 96, overnight low of 57. Tomorrow, winds kicking up out of the west, right around 20 miles an hour. That is not going to be helping our fire suppression efforts. Still sunny skies, high of 81, overnight low of 47. Winds dying down for Thursday. Sunny skies, high of 87. Then looks like partly cloudy skies for Friday and a high of 85. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Well, I'll tell you what, for all your home decor items and tips on how to make your house more personalized and individualized, you get a hold of Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Whatever you need to make your house a home. 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Hey, don't forget on Thursday, it's sale day at the Burley Livestock Commission Company Yard at 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. Yep. Mermaid, Cade, Rogge, Lance, UD, the sale that works for you. Burley Livestock Yard. Sale time 11 o'clock, and don't forget, for consignment information or sale information, call them at 678-9411. The sale that works for you, the Burley Livestock Sale Yard, with a sale this Thursday. Don't miss it. We have got some outstanding guests on the program this morning. I think we're going to have something for everybody this morning. At 9:06, we're going to be talking again to Ray Bagby. That man is so talented, taking us back 150, 60 years ago. He can build from scratch all those Concord stagecoaches. We're going to be talking to him again. I had more questions the last time I talked to him about the horses and about the harnesses and everything. Then at 9:30, we're going to talk to Craig Richardson, and he's going to be talking about how we're looking at Tom Steyer, the multi-billionaire, trying to stifle free speech when it comes to climate change. And at 10:06, a substitute for Dr. History this morning. Bev and Gary Stone are going to be on the air talking about what in the world did our pioneers eat coming across the prairie and the mountains and everything. Food that just didn't stop into a fast food restaurant or maybe a 7-Eleven. They had to figure something out. And then at 10:32 this morning, we're going to be talking to Dudley Hall, and he writes for The Stream, and we're going to be finding out he doesn't like Donald Trump too much, and I've got some opposite opinions to throw at him, so we'll see what happens. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Oh, my goodness sakes, they can clean anything. I've still, Kevin, if you're listening, I apologize. I got to get over there. Way before I had surgery, I took some clothes in, and they've been hanging around in there for over a month. Anyhow, don't forget Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. And if you prepay when you go in there with your Rumply Crumplies, they will give you 10% off. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Also, our thanks go out, and I know Deanne would agree with me on this, that we absolutely could not run this office, the studio, and this business without our friends at SafeLink Internet. And the number to call, 677-8000, to get on their program. It's fast, it's reliable, and over 10,000 customers right here, and they're loving to serve you, so give them a call. 677-8000, SafeLink Internet, absolutely the best. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I know some of you in the audience will take exception to what I'm going to say this morning on a couple of the subjects in the first hour, but I'm going to just be very blunt and honest. I honestly can't believe the stupidity, underline that word stupidity, of scheduling presidential debates, very important presidential debates, at the same time as prime time NFL football games. Now, for those of you that go, well, I don't like football, and that's good. Well, no, it's not. Because the bulk of the audience is going to be tuned into prime time special featured football games. And that is going to hurt the integrity of the presidential debates. And almost 90% of the Americans that were polled yesterday said that's the dumbest idea they ever heard in their life. And really, they're pushing to get it changed. And could it be, honestly, and I'll throw this out at you, and I want to see what you have to say, could it be that the Democrats really are looking for less exposure for Hillary? Are they looking for more questions and less answers? Are they looking for maybe Hillary to have a blanket coverage to where she's not as well seen, she's not as well heard, she's not going to get a chance to lie up at the podium like she has the last couple of days? And why not put it like it used to be on the slower nights of network television? What are the slower nights? Let's tell you. Either Tuesday, Wednesday, or maybe even Thursday. You stay away from Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Saturday, Sunday night. You stay away from that, but you go Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday as the best time for debates, and they used to be like that. I just do not understand. What are your thoughts about putting a couple of the presidential debates up against NFL football? It's just not going to work. Your thoughts, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. They threw open the doors at 7:30 this morning and will leave the doors thrown open until 5 o'clock this afternoon. 7:30 to 5 Monday through Friday. And, of course, they've got all your air filters for your air conditioners to run smoothly and efficiently. Don't forget to stop in and see some really nice folks where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Caller, I'll be right there. Stand by. Don't forget, too, I've got to somehow get in to Denny's restaurant in the next couple of... They've got a special for August. You know what it is? Buttermilk pancakes made with real butter, real milk, real eggs, and a hint of vanilla, hand-mixed and griddled until golden brown. Fluffier, tastier. Delicious. Oh, my goodness, at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley, America's Diner, and another location at 291 Pole Line in Twin Falls. The diner's always open and ready to serve you at Denny's, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. I think you're right. I think they need to change the date to a day when everybody can listen to the debate. My only hope is that they ask Hillary some hard questions. I know they're going to do everything in the world to trip Trump up. That's a foregone conclusion. Be like the debate in the beginning when they made him swear an oath that he would go along with however the vote went.
Yeah, but wait a minute, Jerry.
I think it'll just be very tough on him, and she'll be given a free pass.
Jerry, wait a minute. Wait, whoa.
Bragging about how wonderful her answers were and how horrible Trump's answers were.
Yeah, hang on just a second.
Vice versa.
Hang on just a second, Jerry. You said something very important about the answers of the questions, etc. I think Donald Trump is aware and ready to go to any and all debates with Hillary Clinton. I think that he's going to be a junkyard dog, if you will, and fight back. But on the other side of the coin, with the news and information that we learned yesterday about the NSA possibly having found over 30,000 of those emails that Hillary claims that were lost, there's a lot of trouble in River City this morning about the Hillary camp, and I think Trump is looking forward to this.
Well, I just hope they bring them out and they don't cover them up till after the election. I think the FBI gave Hillary a free pass.
I agree.
They kind of disgraced their organization when they did that because they showed they're not a just, well-organized law enforcement group. They're set up to, to rig things.
Yeah, well.
And this election, it really scares me on the rigging. I think that the Democrats will do anything to get their way, and they'll even cheat as much as they can.
Well, I tend to agree with you, and we're going to have stories that are going to back that up a little bit. So, Jerry, God bless you, and thank you for your call, for setting the pace this morning. I appreciate it, buddy.
You bet. You have a wonderful day, and you take care of your crew there.
I will.
All happy and going.
I will. Thank you very, very much. God bless. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't go away. I want to remind everybody about Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Oh, my, they know all the exercises. Oh, my, they know all the sports medicine. They know how to get you in that hydrotherapy pool and get the most out of trying to help you get back to being you. Nick Greenwell and the whole crew, boy, they are sharp, sharp, sharp over there at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. And the number to call for an appointment, 678-1191. I'll repeat it again, 678-1191. You get on over there, and like I said, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation can help you get back to being you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. It's rigged. Just like everything is rigged. I heard them try to make an explanation of why this happened, and they said they have to schedule these things like 18 months in advance.
Bunk.
I think things can be changed in 18 months, don't you?
Oh, now, come on. Are you going to buy? I know you're not, but I'm just kind of openly chastising that statement. I'm not going to buy into that garbage of 18 months and everything else. It doesn't take a guy that is holding a high school diploma to understand that scheduling up against prime time NFL football is going to take away at least 50% of the audience that would have watched that debate. This is idiocy, and it's also a very subtle way of reminding us that politicians want to hide from the public.
Well, the thing of it is you've got ABC, NBC, and CBS all against the whole deal there because they're rigged.
Well, I don't understand how you can be a network executive. I don't understand how you can possibly look at this situation of scheduling against the football games in the evening, prime time, and understand that you're not going to lose a lion's share of the voting public. That's just complete insanity, Keith.
I realize that. And, you know, this to show you how biased these people are. 18 months ago, they didn't even know who was going to be running for president.
Yeah.
They just knew that they wanted to defend the Democratic Party.
Well, I agree with that.
Rigged.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are rigged. And by the way, I want to ask you a favor. At about 11:30 this morning, after I get off the air and I sign off and return some calls to some folks, I need you to call me on my cell phone. It's a very important issue I need to discuss with you. So would you do that for me?
Sure will.
All right, buddy. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it. Thank you. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I have, we're going to get in trouble over this because I know everybody is feeling so much sympathy for the Khan family that spoke at the Democratic National Convention. The Muslim family, husband and wife, that got up and really denounced Trump and went after him in full attack mode. But now the media is really going after Donald Trump for standing his ground. But I've got a little take on this after I've read the newspaper articles in the USA Today and the Wall Street Journal and the local rag and everything else. I've got a little different take, and I want to share that with you and get your opinion. And if you want to yell at me, go right ahead and do it. But I'll share that with you in just a second. Don't forget Barry Equipment and Rental at South Lincoln and Jerome, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. You need equipment to get the job done, right? Holy smokes, they've got equipment rentals. I mean, they've got the largest selection of tool and equipment rentals in all of southern Idaho. Caller, I'll be right there, stand by. Also, if you want to buy it, own it, and keep it on your property, retail equipment sales, absolutely. And if it needs servicing and parts, yep, that's the place to go. Barry Equipment and Rental. They have all the equipment to get the job done right. South Lincoln, Jerome, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. What are you waiting for? Get on into Barry Equipment and Rental. Caller, stand by just a minute, please. I want to remind everybody the Minidoka County Fair and Rodeo is in full swing. Holy cow. And tonight, let's see. Tonight they've got the Tiny Todd Gymkhana. Last night they had the lawnmower races, and I understand from calling some folks that, whoo, baby, it was fun. And so then tomorrow night, the Lions Barbecue and also that Dutch Oven Cobbler Ice Cream Social, and they're going to have rodeos, and oh my gosh, don't miss a minute of it, along with the Old Farm Equipment Display, Power and Steam, Gary Shoresman heading that up with some other great folks. Minidoka County Fair and Rodeo, August 1st through the 6th. Oh my goodness, you got all week at the Minidoka County Fairgrounds in Rupert. Caller, good morning, and thank you very much.
Yes, good morning, Jed.
Hello, Tony.
I feel compassion for the Khan family for losing the son that they did, but they have to understand that we as Americans have lost thousands of people trying to defend the country that they left. Now, many of these people should do what our pioneers did, fought for their own country.
Well, I agree with you, but my take on the situation with Trump and the Khans, and also another lady's name that needs to be thrown into the mix, is Pat Smith. And I'll tell you what, why don't you listen to what I have to say, and then holler back at me, because like I said, we're good friends, but maybe you won't agree with me. We'll see what you have to say. Okay, Tony?
Okay.
All right, buddy, thanks. Appreciate it. I'm going to do another commercial, and then we'll get into my feeling about the Khan family. All right, so stand by for that. I want to remind you, too, about Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Oh, my goodness sakes, you better hear what you're missing. Maybe it's the grandkids at their birthday party, or maybe you're going to a movie and you're going, hey, turn up the sound. Well, anyway, you stop in and have your hearing checked at Mount Harrison Audiology. Right across from the Minidoka Hospital Emergency Room, and the number to call, 312-0957. That number again, 312-0957, for the lovely Dr. Christine Pickup to help you with a hearing screening to find out what the problems are at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Give them a call today for an appointment, 312-0957. I listened to the Khan family the other night, and I also listened during the Republican National Convention to Pat Smith. Pat Smith is a mother of one of the Benghazi victims, and she has been very, very vocal and very open about her feelings through tears and wavering speech to come out and criticize Hillary as being, bluntly, a liar. And she literally has blamed her son's death on Hillary Clinton. The media has gone after Pat Smith and just absolutely denounced her. The hierarchy of the Democratic Party absolutely went after Pat Smith and did and said everything they could to belittle her. But let's stop right there and bring in the Khan family, the Muslim family. And Khizr Khan, the father, and his wife stood up at the podium at the Democratic National Convention, and they went after Donald Trump. Did they know Donald Trump? No. Did they have anything that caused them heartburn or any problems from Donald Trump? No. But they went after him and really assailed him. It was a pretty good verbal attack. Now let's stop right there and consider this. Both families, Pat Smith for the Republican National Convention and the Khan family at the Democratic National Convention, were invited to go and speak, and they consented to do so. And they both families knew there would be repercussions and ramifications for what they said. However, the news media today has sided totally against anything and everything that comes out of the Republican National Convention and or anything Republican. Whereas they have built up the Khan family, and absolutely they could do no wrong. My feeling is this, that both parties, Pat Smith on the Republican side, knew there were going to be attacks against her, and she stood up and she bravely took on the attacks because she does not like Hillary Clinton, and she thinks that Hillary was a motivating force as to why her son is not here today. The Khan family, on the other hand, did exactly the same thing. But they are now the media darlings, and the media is using that as a crutch to go ahead and attack Donald Trump and Republicans and stifle, literally, people's First Amendment rights. And I did a little research on Mr. Khan, and he is the Muslim father of the soldier, and I salute the family. I salute the service of this American soldier. He was a Muslim American. I'm not denigrating that to any degree. But Mr. Khan is an attorney who has written extensively on the values of Sharia law. I've got it right here in my hand. And I just wonder, instead of going on and on about Sharia law again, and I just wonder why Why in this United States of America, and it shows right here, is there such a mollycoddling to Islamic faiths, Muslims, and why is there such a gimme, well, they can do no wrong? Whereas at the same time, Pat Smith lost her son in Benghazi, and she is being vilified. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't weaken on me. Come on, give me a call. I want to hear from you. We've got a lot of fairs to talk about on this program. And, caller, I'll be right there, I promise. I want to remind you that the Cassia County Fair is right around the corner. And we have some of the great merchants that want you to stop in and visit them while you're at the Cassia County Fair. Like Dot Foods, 1541 West 27th Street in Burley. Oh, my goodness, Dot Foods is America's leading food redistributor. And they offer over 70,000 products from 700 food industry manufacturers in all 50 states. Thank you, Dot Foods. Also, Golden Valley Warehouse, 468 West, 1000 South of Burley. And the owners and staff of Golden Valley Warehouse want to thank all their customers and wish everybody well at the Cassia County Fair. And Kelly's Bearing Supply, 1407 East Main Street in Burley. Don't let your machine sit there while you're waiting for a part to come in. Kelly's Bearing Supply keeps everything on hand. You'll know where you're at when you get your bearings at Kelly's. And they wish you a great time at the Cassia County Fair. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, young man.
Yes, sir.
Well, I seen that yesterday, and I Googled that guy's name, that Muslim, and some interesting things have come up.
Uh-huh.
He is a member of the Muslim Brotherhood.
Yep.
He agrees with Sharia law.
That's right.
And he is a lawyer who is fighting for Muslim immigrants to come into this country.
Exactly. And by the way, when you say about his law degree, he has degrees in law from Punjab University in Pakistan, not really one of our better friends, and Harvard University, and he has written many, many pieces extensively on the advocacy of Sharia law.
Exactly. Now, look, if we're going to compare apples to apples, let's compare apples to apples. I'm sorry that his son passed away, and I'm very proud of him for serving the country.
That's right.
And on the other hand, the Mrs. Smith, I'm so sorry that her son passed away, and I'm proud that he served this country. But there was two different upbringings. There's two different scenarios here.
Yeah, but Doug, wait a minute. The point I was making a few minutes ago, and I want you to agree with me or disagree, let me know, is that both families knew going in, when you're speaking at a political rally or a convention, you're on the hot seat for whatever you say. All right?
Yep.
That's a gimme. So here comes Mrs. Pat Smith, and she criticized Hillary Clinton for not being the Secretary of State that she should have been, not being knowledgeable like she should have been, and not being upfront with the information like she should have been. Okay, but then here comes the Khan family with no direct relationship to Donald Trump whatsoever, and railed him over the coals, and stood up and damned him literally, and Donald Trump spoke back. I thought he did it in a very subtle way, and yet the media has sided with the Khan family and absolutely take the train off the tracks for Mrs. Smith. Why?
The media is for the Democrats.
There you go.
That's it in a nutshell. I mean, you're not going to bite the hand that feeds you, and who in the heck's feeding the media?
Yeah. And, you know, like you said about Mr. Khan, I've got a couple of pages here of single-spaced writing about Khazar Khan. And believe me, this gentleman, he is the co-founder of the Journal of Contemporary Issues in Muslim Law. In other words, he really has been an advocate of Sharia law. He's going on television for the Democratic National Party, expounding about how he loves the Democrats. I'm a little bit scared of Mr. Khan. What are your thoughts?
Exactly. It shows exactly where the Democrats are at. they're wanting to sell this country down the river.
Well,
my question is to all those Democrats who think Muslims a religion of peace, when they get over here and take over, and if they don't join the Muslim religion, what's going to happen to them?
yeah.
Exactly everything that's happening overseas.
You know, I don't think a lot of people understand, and that's where I always revert back to my dear friend Brigitte Gabriel. She's going to be speaking here in Twin Falls on Thursday. She has lived it. She's lived through terrorism, and she understands how insidious this movement can be. And she's going to tell the truth. But you know what? I think most of America today is gullible and naive and really hasn't looked at their whole card in this game of poker.
Exactly. They think that they're just going to sit down and hold hands, sing Kumbaya, and everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
I mean, these are the people running the country now are the ones that the flower children of the 60s. And really, they didn't have much get up and go then, you know?
Well, I just think that the news media, and I've got another call waiting, and I don't want to hold them up, Doug, but I think the news media, I want your response to this, right now is so absolutely left in this country that I'll say this morning, and I hope I'm wrong. I think from here till November, we are going to see such a left-leaning slant in favor of Clinton's, in favor of Bubba and Hillary taking back over the White House. I honestly question whether the Republican Party and Donald Trump have a snowball's chance in the oven of winning.
I think you're right. Especially on this news media deal, they give 7 seconds to Mrs. Smith, and they give 27 minutes to this Muslim who spoke at the Democratic Convention.
Yeah.
That's the coverage they're giving.
Doug, thank you always. I appreciate your call. Thank you very, very much. Caller, I am so sorry to hold you up for a while, but thank you for your patience. Go ahead.
No, sorry about that, sir. Tony ended up hanging up.
Well, gosh, I'm sorry. Calls are welcome. 436-2244. 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. If you want to talk to me about what's going on with the Hillary and the mess, and like I said earlier, I want to repeat this. 30,000 emails, and this story came out early this morning, may not be lost. They may not be lost because of Hillary's purging of those emails, because now it's coming to light by a former NSA top executive. William Binney is the guy's name. And he came out this morning and said, whoa, wait a minute. It might be that the hacking into Hillary's email account might have been from the NSA itself and not Russia. And they may have them. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. Oh, just some great information you're getting out to us. I'm going to make a promise to myself today that, you know, like for the past week, you know, as all of us go around through our work life or social life and things, well, this past week, Zeb, I haven't said a thing about politics or the presidential race. You know, I was hesitant to talk to the people in my life, and I'm not sure if I know this for a fact, but most of the people are not following this stuff.
Right.
So I'm going to at least open my big mouth and, you know, like the topic today, part of it, what you're talking about is the Benghazi thing, and I guess it's Mrs. Cook. Well, what I think I know about the Benghazi is the Clinton machine was moving small arms. I should enlarge that. They were moving shoulder-fired rockets that were stored in Libya so that their machine, which includes Saudi Arabia, can destabilize the Middle East. Well, this is what I'm going to promise to tell my friends, that things like this, because the Clinton machine is just international. They're not going to take care of the regular folks and the old folks in this country. So, are you there?
Yeah, I was absolutely infatuated with what you were saying and how you were presenting it, because it was very well done. And I didn't want to interrupt you at any point. But I will say this, I'll jump in and say this, that when people start to look at the structure of the Clinton machine, to use your words, and I agree with them, and they look at the power structure, and they look at the power struggles, and they look at all the different personalities that have come and gone with involvement with the Clintons, and they look at the power worldwide, and they look at what happened in Benghazi, and they look at the emails, and they look at the scandals, and they look at the money laundering and everything else. My question would be to anybody that's a neighbor or a friend or any part of your surroundings, how in the heck can you vote for somebody as criminal as Hillary Clinton?
Well, and now when I want to say something to one of my people in my life, I'm not going to say something like, "Well, who are you going to vote for?" You know, I think to break the ice, I'm going to somehow say, "Gee, I have learned this and that about the Clinton-Bush crime families. And what do you guys think?"
Yeah.
Have you heard anything? You know what I mean?
I do.
You just got to get a conversation going, because, you know, your audience, a lot of us are on board, but we got to, I've got to feel like I'm brave enough to talk to just people I'm with.
Well, I feel this way, and give me a short answer on this. I've got a weather forecast, but I feel this way. I feel that right now the news media and our government are being very one-sided and also in bed with American Muslims and the Muslims in general. They will not allow anything to be said that's going to harm them or put them in a bad news light. But when I studied this, and it was given to me by a very, very professional source, the Daily Caller sent this to me, and the gentleman that wrote this was Alex Pfeiffer. I've had Alex on my radio program, and he extensively went through in a study about Kaiser Khan, the father, about how he has written about Sharia law and advocate of Sharia law. That scares me when the Democratic National Convention would stand up with that husband and wife knowing that this man is an advocate of Sharia law and the Islamic movement. I find it hard for Trump not to say something back.
Well, boy, there's another talking point in my circle of friends is bring up the Sharia law. You know, say, do you all know anything about Sharia law that the Clinton machine is siding with? Mercy. All right, I got to get.
You know something? I want you to call more often, because I sat here and I was taking notes on a lot of what you said, and I'll remember your voice because you're very knowledgeable, and thank you very much for your time this morning.
All right.
God bless you, sir. The man knows what he's talking about. You know, right now, and I'll back up to what I said earlier, that we've got so many problems in politics. It's not just Trump, and it's not just Hillary Clinton. Come on. Let's get real here for a minute. We have the need for a huge cleaning program in both the House and the Senate. We have the need to get rid of a lot of people that are nothing more than blood leeches on our society. We have the need to get rid of a lot of external parasites outside of politics that are funding money to control politics. And when I say that, I mention a name like Tom Steyer. A multi-billionaire that absolutely is going to do everything in his power, and we're going to talk about this later on this morning at about 9:30. He's going to do everything in his power and his pocketbook to stop you and I from using any kind of carbon energy, stop you and I from living here in rural southern Idaho, stop you and I from doing or using anything except connected to green energy, be it solar or wind. This man absolutely is committed that anybody that speaks out against him or his movement, there should be legal ramifications against those people, like myself. Folks, you've got to see what's going on. I'll do the best I can on this program to throw this information at you, and it's all fact, or I won't put it on the air. But you have to pick the ball up, and you have to run with it. It's getting scary out there. Caller, I ask your indulgence. Wait till I get the weather. I'll be right with you. Please, I promise I'll be right there. I want to remind you about the urgent cares. Oh, my goodness sakes, 3 locations. Riverview Urgent Care in Jerome, and Urgent Care in Twin Falls. And they've expanded the hours at the Urgent Care of Jerome starting August 8th. Coming up, they'll be open Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays and Sundays, 9 to 3. Oh, my goodness, minor emergencies, major care. They really take care of you. Go to their website, find out more, urgentcareofidaho.com. Here's Gina with the weather.
Another beautiful day here in our area, and today is going to be nice. A little bit on the humid side if it feels like it's a little bit muggy. That's because humidity is sitting at about 60%. Sunny is what we're expecting for today. High of 96, overnight low of 57. Tomorrow, winds kicking up out of the west, right around 20 miles an hour. That is not going to be helping our fire suppression efforts. Still sunny skies, high of 81, overnight low of 47. Winds dying down for Thursday. Sunny skies, high of 87. Then looks like partly cloudy skies for Friday and a high of 85. That is your weather for Zebeth Ranch.
She does a great job. Don't forget the urgent cares. Riverview Urgent Care in Burley, Urgent Care of Jerome, and Urgent Care in Twin Falls. No appointments necessary. Minor emergencies, major care. Caller, thank you for your patience. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Zeb, you know something? The problem we have, and it's every day, and it's going to be this way till Christ comes, is we got people out here that don't know their behind from a hole in the ground, and they believe this stuff about Khan. You know, this guy's son was a hero. That's great. I'm glad. And I praise him. I praise the son. I have no praise for the father at all, because he's a opportunist, and he is, you know, the very thing that gave his son freedom, he is trying to take away from the rest of us. You know how many soldiers have been maimed and killed in so many heinous ways since 2004 that we couldn't care less about? Now, you and I care. We care. But we have no idea of the countless soldiers who have died in action that we don't know their name, we don't know their parents. And here we're talking about a guy who 12 years ago died. I'm sorry. That's terrible.
Well, you know, Randy, what?
A soldier who is going to be blown to smithereens, or his arm's going to be blown off, or some terrible thing.
Yeah.
That he'll never recover. His life will never be the same. We never hear a word about it. The rules of engagement are so foul.
Well, Randy, let me jump in here and ask you a quick question.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you a quick question here. Don't you believe that whether it was Pat Smith at the Republican National Convention talking about her son that passed away due to Benghazi, or don't you believe the Khan family that also said, yes, they would stand up at a Democratic National Convention and rail against Donald Trump? Both parties knew, they had to know that there was going to be public scrutiny. But my problem with what happened to Pat Smith is that the media damned her. They came out and they belittled her. When at the same time, a couple of days later, the Khan family came out and basically did the same thing, railing against Donald Trump, but then the media absolutely has put them on a pedestal. What in the world is going on in this country?
Well, there's so many people that don't know nothing. The other day, two things quick, and I'm going to hang up. The other day, I was happened to watching a movie on VH1. I don't know what it was. And at a break, there was an interview with a white girl interviewed a black guy, and he said, well, Hillary's a liar, but we've all lied. What would you rather vote for? A racist, Trump, or a liar? Okay, so we've proven that she's a liar. So in other words, do people believe that she lied to Mrs. Smith on the tarmac to her face? You know, you don't lie to people's faces, do you? Unless you're such a depraved... I'm so sick of being mad, Zeb. I don't know what the hell to do but call in and get therapy.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're always welcome because you bring up some good points on this program. I've got another call waiting, but call me back if you would. I appreciate it. Thank you. Caller, good morning. Go ahead quickly.
Yes, good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
The bottom line to all this problem we're having is the media is going to use the cons to eventually bring this country down. And the major problem we're going to have in the future, if Hillary should get in, this country will be so weak, and it's going to take just a little bit of upset, and the Muslims are going to pull into this country and take us over. They are going to be the most dangerous problem we have.
I cannot argue that fact, and I get some stupid emails by some that are liberals in this area and Democrats, etc. I don't care. But I'll tell you what, if people want to really find out the truth, and I know this lady so well, she's a good friend of mine, I urge everybody to take the time and the effort to become informed of the truth. Don't read the Times News. Don't listen to ABC, CBS, NBC, etc. A bunch of absolute Looney Tunes. Go to that meeting on Thursday night and listen to Brigitte Gabriel really lay out the facts about Islamic jihad and terrorism and learn the honest-to-goodness facts.
Well, the Muslims are very patient people. The terrorists are. If it takes them 10 years, 20 years, or 30 years, they will eventually take this country over if we don't put a stop to it.
And that's very well said and stated, and I agree with you. Tony, always appreciate your call. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, buddy. I've got to get a commercial in here for our major sponsor, but then I want to tell you something else that's really maddening to me this morning, and I want to tell you that real quick. Stand by. Don't forget summer travel time with your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, and some of their best-selling tires are on sale now. Right now! For your cars and your pickups and SUVs, horse trailers, boat trailers, camper trailers. Oh my! Get in there and check out all the great buys on tires for safe driving. And check out, of course, the best in brake service, and I underline that. The best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, but above all, the best in service. At your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, wonderful Twist family and Paul, Daniel on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and my buddy Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. I got to get this in real quick, because when I heard this morning at about 4:30, I just about jumped right out of my skin. The group Black Lives Matter, and that just makes my skin crawl as it is, because it's kind of like, well, we're better than you, Black Lives Matter. I can't stand that title of the group. Now, these repulsive people have started a demand for black reparations. What does that mean? Well, they want you and I and the taxpayers of America to create a great big slush fund and give them, the Black Lives Matter, all the money. Because, they've been absolutely put down and downtrodden for the years, and why, it goes way back to before the Civil War and everything. Give me a break. I'm just going to bluntly say this as we end the first hour of this program. It was the greatest thing in the world for the blacks to come here to America. Even though it was under insidious terms with black slave traders out of Africa, and slave owners and traders here in America. Bad part of our history, regardless of how you look at it. But it also was the very best for them because they were given a chance for their families and all their heritage to live and thrive and become a part of the greatest country in the world, America. And now we've got Black Lives Matter. This is what we don't care. We're going to go back and back and back and back. And we want black reparations paid to us. And you know something? My biggest fear is that they might win. Because if Hillary gets the not as president in the Oval Office, look out. Caller, I've got 30 seconds and I've got to go real fast.
Okay, I'll make it quick. I got in a debate yesterday on Facebook, which I usually don't. I try and avoid. But this guy, he was going on about how Trump was such a pig and this and that and everything else. And I kind of said, well, who are you planning on voting for? And he says, I'm going to vote for Bernie Sanders. And I says, well, he's not even in the running. He says, I'm going to write him in. He's the people's president.
Yeah.
So I kind of told him, I said, well, I'll give you the floor. Tell me what's good on his platform. He couldn't give me one thing other than he's going to give me all these free things.
There you go. And you...
and Trump was going to make it so that innocent people like him are starving.
Yeah.
Well, I got onto his Facebook profile, and this guy is bigger than me, and I'm a big guy. But this guy probably outweighed me by 100 pounds. And I told him, I says, well, I don't think that you're going to starve to death there, little fella. Push that plate away from you and get away from the ding-dongs and the ho-hos. You might have to get off your butt and do something, and you might take a little more pride in the way that this country is run rather than just turn a blind eye to everything.
I agree. I got to run, but I love that statement this morning. Call me back later. I'd love to have you back on the air. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Got to run to the news. CBS is coming up next. I'll be back in about 6 minutes. Don't go away. Oh, here we go. Hour number 2. Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell. And over at our main studios, my numero uno engineer, Wheels. And I want to talk to him a little bit later on this morning, make sure he's okay. He was in an auto accident, and we want to make sure everything's A-okay with him. And don't forget, we're brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. And, of course, some of our great advertisers, including Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this free land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Oh, Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Oh, the other day you were going to have a family picnic, a reunion, and everybody gathered together. There were hundreds of you, and somebody forgot to order the porta potties. Well, don't do that. Don't let that happen. All you have to do is call Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. They've got the portable restrooms and all the various stages and styles, and they're locally owned and operated, and they will serve you. Don't have that dilemma. You call them at 734-6969. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Holy cow, it's day 2 of the Minidoka County Fair and Rodeo. My goodness, it's going to go all the way through Saturday, and today, of course, being Tuesday, all the open class events and all the judging and all the 4-H and the FFA, and my goodness, they're going to have a Tiny Tot Gymkhana tonight, and then later on this week, they're going to have concerts and rodeos. Oh my, what are you waiting for? Why, Greg Walton is standing at the gate with his pom-poms. He's the Minidoka County Fair and Rodeo cheerleader, saying, come on in to the Minidoka County Fair and Rodeo at the Minidoka County Fairgrounds in Rupert. Really a lot of fun. I've had this gentleman on the program in the past, and he has been very supportive of our program and also comes to Lunch Bunch on occasion when he can shake loose from his busy activities. But I'm in awe of his ability and his talents and his craftsmanship as he is rebuilding and building a brand new Concord stagecoach over at his facility in Declo. And this man knows more about the Old West with the stages and everything than anybody I know. Good morning, Ray Bagby. How are you?
It's fine, and how are you this morning, Zeb? It's always great to be on your show.
You know, Ray, give us an update. How's the Concord stagecoach coming along?
Well, you know, it's really getting close to the end of what the major job is, but now the paint and upholstery and some pinstriping is pretty tedious, and I would love to have been ready for the Cassia County Fair, but it's not going to happen, so we're probably going to be another 6 weeks before we're completely done.
Let me ask you this, Ray. In years past, 150 years ago, when they built these Concord stagecoaches and they painted them and the craftsmanship and the materials used, how is it so much better today, or is it better today?
Well, you know, the material basically is the same. You know, it's all hardwood, ash, white oak, and hickory, and poplar bent panels. But the craftsmanship of those guys, I guess it can be duplicated. But a lot of these old wagons and buggies that we redo, a lot of them, what we've done, I didn't mean a lot of them, but you can see the craftsmanship that some guy did with a hand tool. I don't think I could do it because we use power tools and a lot of old tools, don't get me wrong. But I'm just in awe of the old craftsmanship, and that's basically why we decided to do this Concord.
Let me go a little step further on this. When they were producing these stagecoaches back in, what was it, Concord, New Hampshire, is that right?
That's exactly right.
Okay. When they were producing these stagecoaches, how did they produce them? I mean, did they have a quasi-assembly line where one guy did a certain thing and then it went to the next guy? How did they do it back then?
Well, you hit the nail right on the head. They had your iron crews, they had your wheelwrights, they had your Wainwrights, which is the bodybuilder. You had your trim crews, which they called the painting and upholstery was the trim crews. And Abbott Downing, at the height of their career, had 400 employees and 40 different forges going constantly.
Wow.
So the iron crew would produce so many different iron items, and the wood crews were just constantly going. And it was the start of an assembly line, because the wheels would be done and handed over to the axle builders, and on and on and on. And that's why they was able to produce so many of these that take so much time.
Now, Ray, with the stagecoach itself, how many people could seat inside the stagecoach for traveling across the West?
9. There's 3 headed facing forward, 3 backwards, and then 3 in the middle on a jump seat.
Okay. One of the things
those 3 in the middle were knee to knee with the people that were facing backwards.
Okay, now, one of the things I did not ask you the last time you were on the radio is the stagecoaches ran, 24/7, 365 days a year, whether it was wintertime, whether it was summer, whatever. How in the world did the people in the wintertime brave the elements sitting in a stagecoach? Certainly they just couldn't turn on the heater.
It was anything but comfortable, and of course you had in the door there was a window that slid up and over into a bracket to close it. They had leather roll-down curtains that basically kind of closed it up, and then being packed in there, it was better than riding where the driver was, but it would have been cold and miserable, and that's all there is to it.
Well, now, how many miles were the distances between the different stage stops? I'm sure that the horses had to be changed frequently, so how many miles did they gauge before they had to have a change of horses and a stop?
Yeah, well, of course, at a stage stop, you had to have water. That was the main thing. And, of course, a lot of them, they had to drill wells, old steam-powered cable machine to drill wells, where they'd be on a creek or a spring. But what they really wanted and possibly could was 15 to 20 miles between. And then they could change horses, and these 6-horse teams were a little lighter horse, 12, maybe 1,300 pounds, and they could trot most of that way and then change horses, but they just couldn't hardly go any farther than that.
Okay, so 15 miles, and then hopefully there would be a stage stop. We've got a caller with a question, Ray, so stand by. Caller, go ahead, please. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, I understand that Ray is an expert on stagecoaches, and I know he was there during these times. I want to know how come in the movie Stagecoach, John Wayne sat on the floor.
Well, I can answer that. It was Hollywood.
Yeah.
with that jump seat in the middle, it would have been impossible for... He'd have been facing forward or backwards, and he couldn't have looked in the camera too good.
All right. Thank you, Jerry. God bless you for your call. You know, Jerry brings up an interesting...
Hey, Ray, you keep doing that great work, will you?
I will. Thank you.
You are an inspiration.
All right. I agree. Thank you, Jerry. Ray, talking about Hollywood, the movies, and the real truth about what went on with the stagecoaches. You know, in the old television series Wells Fargo with Dale Robertson, they were hee-haw, and they galloped those horses down the trail. That didn't happen that way, did it?
No, the horse would give out in a mile and a half or two, and he just couldn't do that. A lot of it, of course, the terrain, is up and down, and those horses, they'd be laying in the collar going up the hill, and had to walk, and once they pulled the hill, they'd have to stop and let them blow. But that Hollywood running them, that just is foolishness. But it makes a show, I guess.
Yeah, and another thing that we talked about briefly one other time you were on the program is the actual riding on top of a stagecoach, to which I have. I have been in the Binion stagecoach right up in the shotgun seat, and I can tell you firsthand, and Ray, you can dispute this and tell me I'm wrong, but I've been there. I'll tell you what, if you want to see your whole life pass before your eyes when those horses are galloping into a coliseum, and that stage driver turns that stagecoach and he's almost literally tipping on two wheels, it ain't easy staying up in the shotgun seat.
I'll bet it isn't. Act like I'm an expert. I've only rode in one time, and that was a Hollywood coach that come out of Tremont. But the other guys was driving and had a shotgun guy up there, and that is way up there, and I can see what you mean at a dead run and turning sharp, and where that body rides on them fill braces, it would have a tendency to lean, and I'll bet you was grabbing for something when you were up there.
Well, let me just tell you this, that I think my laundry bill went up about $50.
I bet it did.
Listen, let's talk a little bit about these horses now. Were they hard to find good teams of horses back in those days, or was it fairly commonplace?
Well, of course, everything was horse-powered, and the company that people didn't maybe hear about as much was Gilmer and Salisbury. They got to be the biggest stagecoachers in the West. And Jack Gilmer, when he'd buy out a stage line, usually he didn't put his name on it. He left it as it was. But anyway, he raised a lot of his own horses, and he bred a part thoroughbred, some part Morgans, and some big draft horses for certain areas on the road. If it was a tough uphill pull, well, especially on the wheelers, they'd put big horses. But he at one time had over 1,000 head of horses, and he raised about 50% of his own. But he was always buying horses. And of course, they'd cripple one, and I think, just reading now, I'm not an expert on it, like Jerry said, but
they just, if the horse got crippled, they basically just turned it loose and just, horse was on its own. Because these horses had to be pretty sound, to trot every day with a load.
Now, let me ask this question. Now, I was thinking about this when I was back in Oklahoma City doing that special entry into the Coliseum on that stagecoach. Are all the horses shod? Did they shoe each and every horse for the stagecoach pulling?
Well, if it was just a dirt road and maybe they would go somewhat without being shod, but it probably didn't take long that they would get gimpy. They just about had to have them shod, and I'm a real fan of blacksmiths. And, of course, all stage lines had blacksmiths, and they were at home stations. They might be a shop, but Buffalo Forge Company come out because of stagecoaches. They come out with a portable forge. The legs folded up, they put it in the wagon, and this blacksmith would hit the road down the stage road and set up in different places and take care of the horse's feet and, pound out his own shoes. And he was paid, the blacksmith was paid about double of your camp tenders, your horse handlers and everything. And then the second highest paid was the guy who repaired harness.
Yeah.
And then the poor old driver, he got about $8 a month.
Well, now, you've opened up another source of conversation here in regards to the harness and in regards to the stage itself. What did they do if they broke down? Now, did each stage have basically a spare wheel, or did they have extra parts of a harness? What did they do?
To guess on this and then and basically reading about it, of course, carrying a spare wheel just wasn't in the cards. They're too heavy. Those back wheels weigh 90 pounds, so they wouldn't have one of them tied on too much weight. But they were so well built, chances are they didn't break down much. But if a tire got to rattling, why, the blacksmith reset the tire. They probably, under the driver's seat, I bet they had an awl and some thread, maybe a box of copper rivets, just to get something together, to hold Arkansas till they got to the next station.
Right. Now, the next station, in the days of the Old West, how reliable was the next station? I mean, we talk about some of the Indian attacks. We talk about some of the people leaving the station. They just up and quit the job. Was there a concern every day that when you got to the next station, 15, 20 miles ahead, you weren't going to have what you thought you were going to have?
Yeah, it was Ben Holiday. The Indians, they burned out so many of his stations. That's why he sold out to Wells Fargo. But many a time the stage driver would see the smoke or the station at 10 that wasn't 10. Of course, if it was Indians, they stole the horses. And any outlaw, if they didn't rob the stage, they dang sure took the horses. So, unfortunately, he had to make them pull the horses go the next 20 miles, maybe another 50 miles. It just happened constantly. Those stage stations just out in nowhere, and they were vulnerable.
Are any of the old stage stations between, like, here in Salt Lake or here and other parts of the Northwest, are they still around? Are they all in shambles? What happened to all of them?
Well, I personally have never went and seen an old stage station. I think there was one up close to the City of Rocks, and I haven't been up there and haven't been able to find out if it's still there. And then one guy told me there was one down in Nevada somewhere that's on some private ground, but it's in pretty fair shape. And if I can get hold of this guy again, I'm going down there and see if the ranch owners will let me go look.
What did they offer?
That one is still there, I guess.
Ray, what did they offer as far as a traveling kind of an amenity for the money you paid for the ticket? I mean, did they offer the meals, or were there extra? I mean, there weren't exactly the best of quarters. I mean, they had the little house out behind the big house, and you better use it if you're going to get on that stagecoach. What was it like traveling on those stages?
It was uncomfortable, of course, and
ladies had to put up with some gentlemen maybe that didn't bathe constantly, and one of the funniest things is reading about these stage stations. And the home stations were a little better, but the way stations was, oh man, this guy wrote about him. He said he'd come out and cuckleburrs and tobacco juice in his beard and his old hair a foot long and never been combed. Said he looked like a wild man. And he went in there and got some old greasy food. And he said, this kind of dirty, ain't it? And he said, well, the Bible says you eat a pack of dirt in your life. And the guy said, well, I didn't want it all in one setting. So he said, I don't think I want any of that old greasy pork. And the guy, well, that's fine. You're welcome to the mustard because there's nothing else.
Oh, my goodness. Well, we've got another call with a question for you, Ray. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, Zeb, I cowboyed down on the Hot Creek down in Nevada, and Dave and Bobby Murphy runs it, and there's 2 stage depots that's still in really good shape, and there's a couple of graves there at one of them. But anyways, Dave and Bobby Murphy owns the ranch, and they probably let anybody on it to see it, but they're still intact.
Oh, my. Well, there you go, Ray. There's another one. Well,
I just wrote that name down, and I would, if I could get a phone number, if this gentleman had it, I would call him.
I will see if I can get it. I used to go down there and cowboy for them quite a bit, and I'll call down there and get their number or find their number, and I'll get back to Zeb, and he can let you know.
Absolutely. I'd be honored to help. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. You know, Ray, when you think about the Old West, and you think about the routes that were chosen, whether it was for the Pony Express or whether it was for the stage lines, how much of the existing routes are still around, and did they make a lot of our roads on those stage routes?
You know, some of the roads, and especially the old roads, followed right on the stage routes, but today, I couldn't answer that question with, any authority because I just don't know which roads are right on it. The old stage road from here come from Albion and head for the Montgomery Ferry, come right down Bridger Canyon over here. That old trail is still there, but of course it's a private closed road. But Zeb, I can't answer that question right.
Well, I want to tell everybody in my audience that this man has so much talent. He is so well versed in the Old West, especially with the Concord stagecoaches and building one at his property. I have seen pictures of it. I can't wait to see the real thing. Ray Bagby, I say God's blessings to you because you are an artist.
Well, you make me feel good like that, but I've sure got good help here. And it was a pleasure to be on your show, and I look forward to seeing you and Deanne coming and seeing me.
Well, I'm healing up, and I'm starting to walk a little bit better, so we'll come over, Ray. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
All right, take care. This man has so much talent, and he's just a encyclopedia. And I hope somebody is documenting everything he did. I hope he's got pictures of everything he did, everything he's done. And the building to the most minute degree of a 150, 60-year-old Concord stagecoach. And I guarantee you it is beautiful. Oh, my goodness, we got to pay some bills, and we want to say thank you very much to our dear, dear friends at Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, with Joel Heward, his family, staff, all serving you and your family. When there's the passing of a loved one, believe me, the whole world just starts spinning, and you don't know what needs to be done in a short period of time. They can help. They will help. Always with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity, serving your family. They can help you with all the arrangements, so please call them today. The number, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. That number again, 436-5636. Want to also mention before we get to our next guest, coming up in just a few moments about some of the great sponsors and merchants of Cassia County wanting you to come to the Cassia County Fair for 2016, and they include Magic Valley Irrigation at 44 East, 500 South of Burley. Jeff and the whole crew at Magic Valley Irrigation like to thank all the farmers for a wonderful job, and they also want to remind you they've been offering irrigation system service and repair since 1978. Magic Valley Irrigation. Don't forget those folks. They're really, really good. AMI 719 Overland and Burley. Look for the big 28-foot wrench over the door, and you'll go nuts over their bolts. I'll tell you, I love that. And they urge you to come and attend the Cassia County Fair, AMI on Overland in Burley. And last but not least, K&R Rental, 256 South, 600 west of Hayburn, locally owned and operated, and believe me, they've got it all for you to rent over there, from air compressors, pivots, tractors, landscaping, everything. K&R Rental can help you out. There you go. In just a few moments, we're going to have a gentleman by the name of Craig Richardson on our program, and we're going to be talking to him about the stifling of our free speech on climate change. I don't believe in climate change, never have, and I've had some very, very educated professors and knowledgeable people on this program that say it's nothing more than a ploy, which I think it is, and we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Don't forget Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. Oh my goodness, Nick and the whole crew over there. They've got the new 2017 models coming in, and that means you can save a whole bunch of money on the 2016s. And don't forget, too, they've got all the side-by-sides, they've got generators. Oh my goodness, the list goes on, along with all the accessories and a great service department at Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World, where the fun is sold. Really good folks. And another reminder, too, that when you're in that area, don't forget our friends at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert, right there on Highway 24. And they can help you. Help you is the key words right there, are the key words. Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and more with people that are really dedicated and responsive to your needs. Call them. Call them now for an appointment. Don't you dare put it off. 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Let's go to the phone line right now. I have not had this gentleman on the program in the past, and I'm very much looking forward to our conversation. Craig Richardson, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. Zeb, how are you doing?
Well, not too bad. Give us a little background on you and E&E Legal before we go too far into the conversation.
Sure, absolutely. My name is Craig Richardson. I am the executive director of the Energy and Environment Legal Institute, or E&E Legal. We're based inside the Beltway, behind enemy lines, in Washington, D.C., and we are primarily a legal outfit where we use the legal process as a way to try to roll back some of this out-of-control regulatory activity that I know people in your world are very familiar with. We use a couple of approaches. One is the Freedom of Information Act, or FOIAs, both at the federal level and then state by state, to try to get public information out to the public, really. And the other activities we use are actually going into states and suing them. We went in Colorado. They have renewable energy standards that are basically unreachable as a way to shut down traditional energy sources, which would lead to skyrocketing electricity prices. And so we went in there and sued the state of Colorado. In many of this regulatory type of activity, Colorado was only one of 30 states that had the same type of legislation. So we try to use the legislative process to try to roll back some of the stuff. Our belief, quite sadly, is that it's the only one of the three branches that really that we have a shot at anymore. I mean, the executive branch is basically a tyranny, and Congress is sort of shut down with special interests. So the legal process is what we really try to do. We try to bring information out to the public and then allow the public, through their efforts, to try to stop all this.
Very well stated, Craig. Thank you. And, You know, my stand on where we are today, and feel free to criticize me or rebuke me, but I have said for a long time on this program that climate change and global warming, man does not control the thermostat. And for us to think that we're going to change or minimize the temperature or whatever's happening in this world today is absolutely ridiculous. However, the Democrats have picked up on this climate change as their mantra for success, and also, I believe, for their mantra of stifling free speech. And that's where billionaire Tom Steyer comes in and others. What are your thoughts about what I just said?
Well, I mean, I think you've hit the nail on the head in a lot of different ways, and you've tapped into a lot of issues that we're on the front lines are. I mean, here's where we are even on climate change or global warming. The fact of the matter is, even if you believe everything that they say, which I don't personally, the policies that they're putting forth, which would basically decimate our free speech and our economy because of the skyrocketing electrical prices, among other things, the policies they're putting forth wouldn't do a thing to that. So then you have to ask yourself, well, why are they doing it? And that leads to the second part of your statement, and that is there's a lot of money behind those pushing the narrative of what was global warming, but then that didn't fit the narrative because we've been in an 18-year pause, as they call it, like it hasn't gone up for 18 years. By this point, Manhattan was supposed to have been underwater 2015 on the early modeling. So then you have to take a step back and say, well, why are they doing this? Well, in typical big government fashion, they're doing it for a bunch of different ways. One is they're trying to control a major resource in this country, energy. By them essentially obliterating coal, and all you have to do is drive through the southeast and other areas, you'll see what's happening to that region. People are out of work. Companies are shutting down. They're laying people off. And who steps in and takes over those assets? Well, people like Tom Steyer, George Soros, Bloomberg's put $30 million into the Sierra Club. So then you're going to start scratching, saying, well, wait a minute. There's more to this. What are the political parties these days? They're just an extension of who happens to have the most money. And that's what we put forth in our report, that, the Steyer report. Basically, he's bought off the Democratic Party. For them, they get the corporate media covering them in a way that makes them look like they're saving the world. So there's political benefit, but there's also financial benefit. I mean, Steyer spent $74 million in the last cycle on Senate races. He's put a ton of more money into the races this time around. Bloomberg, as I said, drops $30 million at a pop to these groups like the Sierra Club. So there's a lot of money in it. And not only that, you got federal, state, and now local grants and subsidies propping up the renewable energy industry. And they're trying to dust this off as the latest, greatest technology. Well, it's not, because if it was, it would be able to stand on its 2 feet in a free market setting, but it can't. It's so heavily subsidized. And so there's a lot of money there as well. And so the whole thing really comes down to money in the end, as it always does, sadly, in politics these days.
Let me ask you, Craig, when you talk about all these insidious means and methods of people like Tom Steyer and George Soros, etc., I kind of go back and revert back to, wait a minute, why aren't our congressmen and our senators becoming much more involved, much more knowledgeable? Why aren't they picking up the papers and understanding what the print says? Why have we got such gullible and naive leadership?
Well, you know, I don't know if I'm sure you remember, you're probably a student of history, the Eisenhower speech back right before he stepped down as president, and he referred to, there's a lot of things he's talked about this, but he referred to that, that's where the term military-industrial complex came from. Mm-hmm. And his notion at that time was we came out of the Second World War, and now we have all this great technology, but he feared that with the science and the corporations now potentially benefiting from these types of technologies, that could severely influence the direction and policy of America. And I sort of liken all of these things now to that. I mean, you've got this now, green energy is really along that same line. It's just a lot of money, and Congress, unfortunately, responds to where a lot of the money is. And Peggy Noonan, as you probably remember, was Reagan's speechwriter and is now a columnist for the Wall Street Journal. She wrote an article saying, you have a serious problem with the Republic when 6 of the 10 wealthiest counties in America are located in and around Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. And to answer your question, so maybe cynically, that's why Congress isn't doing anything.
Right.
They're not doing anything because there's the amount of money that flows in and out of this city. And I live here inside the Beltway, and I can tell you
in my time in and out of Washington the last 30 years what I've seen. And it's just obscene. If you've ever seen the movie The Hunger Games, where they have all the provinces and then they all go to the capital, and it's completely, wealthy like it was in ancient Rome. I mean, that's what we now have in America. It's not that they're naive. And it's sadly, they refer to the middle of the country as flyover states, or where you are is, way out there. It's not that they're naive. I hate to say it, they just don't care.
There is a 7-letter word that you used earlier that I've used on my program many, many times, and I wonder why and how they are allowed to do this, and the word is control. Once they have control, they being the insidious left and people like Tom Stiers, what kind of a society, what kind of a country will we be if we all have to adhere to the green energy philosophy? What will we be doing for lifestyles? How will this country be in the next 10 to 20 years?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people that are going even beyond the whole notion of money itself, and so that's where some of that carbon credit thing comes in, and essentially you'll be given an allowance of how much, whatever resource you want to use, whether it's food or it's energy, and the state, whatever configuration, will allow you to have credits, almost like a parent gives you an allowance, and when you're when you're done with that allowance, when you've used your amount of energy that you're going to be able to run your house with or your computer using stuff, it'll just shut off. I mean, you tell me we don't have the technology now to do all that stuff. I mean, they could do that in a heartbeat. They control the grid. I mean, that's what they ultimately want to go to. They want to control everything you do, and that's what the Obamacare was, whether it's health care or it's food or it's energy. I mean, look at education. They've been controlling education for 60 years. I mean, we educate people now that they can't. I mean, my day when I learned how to do a math equation, it took me 2 steps. Now it takes 10. I mean, why is that?
I guess I question, Craig, when you have a society that is absolutely like the slaves in Egypt in biblical times, and they're not making enough money to help support the government, pretty soon the government is going to be at a lack of money. How in the world can you bankrupt a society that should be up and alive and running with God's assets of fossil fuels that'll last for thousands of years? How can you really make the public buy into green energy that is not going to work? It's not going to be sufficient for the energy grid, but yet Tom Stiers and his ilk, they're making us believe that they have all the answers.
Well, I mean, again, sadly, they were very methodical about this, over the last 80 years or so. I mean, they've shut. I mean, you can go to college now and get a whole course on green energy. Even, when I was a kid, it was the Bugs Bunny show and all that, and the Road Runner. Now it's Enviro Man. I mean, everything is. They control the corporate media, all the messaging coming out of the media. I mean, everybody now has to recycle. I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, but you know what I mean? I mean, they changed them. When I was a kid, I used to turn on, Father Knows Best and Leave It to Beaver, and you don't find those shows anymore. Now it's like Enviro Man has to save the world, and Hollywood comes out with their movies, and then even if the movies themselves aren't bad enough, then you got guys like Leonardo DiCaprio out there saying climate change is the next best, hugest threat to mankind, and you got John Kerry, who's Secretary of State, who's supposed to be keeping us safe from wars, is saying the climate. I mean, that's what happens. They start beating the same drum, and then you feel like you're intellectually inferior if you happen to even question their talking points. And it's hard to overcome. You're getting it in schools, you're getting it in Hollywood, you're getting it in entertainment, and it's pervasive everywhere you are.
Craig, how concerned are you as the executive director of E&E Legal about the legality or the illegality of trying to muzzle free speech and almost make it criminal for you and I to have a conversation like we are on public radio right now today?
Well, that's really the last straw, right? When they realize they can't win this debate, which climate change shows up as 30th of people's 30th out of 30 concerns. It's really open polling. It hasn't done anything, even all of that I just said that they're doing. And so what's their next step, or last step, really, is to muzzle people. And it's a very dangerous issue that they're trying to do, to essentially use the state leading prosecutor, which is the Attorney General, and they got together about 18 of them in this pact, this little secret pact, and decided that they were going to start prosecuting anybody, not only the ExxonMobils who should have known climate change was coming along, but also any of the think tanks and people that we work with in the freedom movement. They've gone after and subpoenaed them, and what that tells me is 2 things. One, they're not winning the battle. The battle of ideas, truth always comes out in the end, and 2, they're getting more extreme.
And I do think that they've crossed the line. People, even middle-of-the-road people, think that that's too far over the line. And, groups like ours are going to fight really to the death over that right. Because when you lose the freedom of speech, there's nothing left.
Absolutely.
And they will continue to do that. I know as a radio host, I'm sure you're aware of them trying to go through they use these Orwellian terms like the fairness doctrine or something, and they're trying to get equal time for the left on talk radio. I've seen that legislation pop up over the years. I mean, they will continue to push unless we push back. And I think, hopefully, my positive view on all this is that people are finally waking up. I think that's where we're at.
I hope,
and we might as well just pack it in.
I hope and pray you're right. We have a caller with a question for you. Caller, go ahead, please. You're on the air, please.
Well, with social media and the interconnectedness of everything, and how people don't want to ever to appear out of, they don't want to look like they're uninformed or something. So it's amazing how much they know about everything, but how much they know about nothing. And you see, when it comes down to it, they don't take the time to inform themselves about what really matters, so they can't have an argument that has any substance. So they're just weak kneed, and the whole world seems to be under this peer pressure, and you wonder, are any of us going to find our way to fight back? Thanks.
Go ahead and respond to that if you would, please, Greg.
No, the caller brings up a great point, and I worry that, and I've got 2 children, 18 and 14, and I try to teach them critical thinking, and we didn't put them in the public schools for that reason in part. But he's exactly right. We're a mile wide and an inch deep on anything. Right? It's always like, rhetoric used to be a big discipline that they used to teach in schools. The art of our arguing and putting together, even if you weren't a lawyer, right? You go about 4 or 5 different issues deep and you build your case. Now you go about one sentence, and then if you disagree with somebody, then you call them a name, right?
Right.
And if you're on our side tends to be called, well, you're just like Hitler, right? And that's sort of the end of the discussion. But he's exactly right. There isn't any substance anymore, and when you take people out of their comfort zone, like question them on something that's already what's the nature of the news? 97% of scientists agree that, and so we shouldn't even have this debate on climate change anymore. Well, how do you come back from that and say, well, no, people take them out of their comfort zone and take them out of their talking points? They don't have the capability anymore to address that. And I point to the education where that begins. And I know there's a lot of people now who are homeschooling their kids, and there are educational alternatives, but you have to try to do that all in the guise of being charitable at the same time, which I don't necessarily always, if not. It is frustrating, but you need to try to learn yourself, get educated yourself. He's right about the internet. There is a lot of information out there. Don't read the corporate media. Don't believe necessarily what they say. Go beyond that and be educated and try to engage people in a pleasant way and let them know the real truth.
And Craig, final thoughts here this morning as we wind down on our time clock. But when you have idiotic remarks made by Secretary of State John Kerry comparing our refrigerators and our air conditioners to be more dangerous than the threat of ISIS, and the news media in general backs him on that insane statement, we've got trouble in River City.
Yeah, no, you're right. And there, I think it was Ron Paul or somebody who termed them the Republicrats and the Democrats. And that's sadly, I know that's not the way it is. And thankfully, we have states like yours and others that are where I think all this movement will come back from. But I can tell you, inside the Beltway, that's exactly right. There's not a lot of difference between these two parties, and they're beholden to special interests, and it's sad. But the good thing is there are freedom fighters out there, and so we're ready to put the truth forward.
Well, God bless you for all your efforts. The Executive Director of E&E Legal, Craig Richardson, I've really enjoyed the conversation. I hope you'll come back in the future. Thank you.
We'd love to anytime. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, sir. Thank you very, very much. I have here in my hands about a 15-page report that was put together by Craig and his staff at E&E Legal regarding Tom Stiers and the absolute idiocy of climate change and green energy. And if anybody wants to read this, I'll try to give you the information on the website and everything. Very, very interesting, very well done. Thank you for being on the program this morning. Craig Richardson from back in Washington, D.C. at E&E Legal. Very interesting. Got to get the weather in here. My goodness sakes, here comes Gina with the weather forecast.
Another beautiful day here in our area, and today is going to be nice. A little bit on the humid side if it feels like it's a little bit muggy. That's because humidity is sitting at about 60%. Sunny is what we're expecting for today. High of 96, overnight low of 57. Tomorrow, winds kicking up out of the west, right around 20 miles an hour. That is not going to be helping our fire suppression efforts. Still sunny skies, high of 81, overnight low of 47. Winds dying down for Thursday. Sunny skies, high of 87. Then looks like partly cloudy skies for Friday and a high of 85. That is your weather for Zebeth Ranch.
Gina, thank you very much. Calls are welcome. I've got some time right now, about 6-7 minutes. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a jingle. Yesterday on the program, and last week also, I mentioned to you on this show why I would be very, very concerned if I were going to the Olympics in Rio de Janeiro. And I mentioned the filth, the absolute filth of that area and the contaminated waterways. Everything is negative over in Rio. Quite frankly, I'm surprised that the Olympic officials haven't stepped in months earlier than this and said, that's it. No, we're going to cancel the venue. We're going to go someplace else. This morning in the paper, there was a picture that solidified exactly what I've been talking about with the raw human sewage in exactly the same places as to where they're going to have the Olympic events of the sailing and the rowing and the open water swimming, and it's absolutely repugnant. The human sewage, the dead fish, the garbage in the water, and basically what Rio did in these areas where they're going to have those venues, they literally went out in boats and raked up with nets and everything else the garbage to try to make the water look more enhancing and available for human use. I wouldn't go there and compete for any money in the world or any awards in the world. This is going to be, I think, one of the most devastating, if not the most devastating, Olympics ever for humankind. I think it's ridiculous to even go there and compete. And one of the United States equestrian folks, a press officer by the name of Leah Olivetta, was talking about the water concerns for the human athletes versus what's going on in the equine part of the Olympics, and she said this, quote, "The water at the venue for the horses is filtered before it comes to them from the water system." In other words, the horses are getting much purer, much cleaner, and filtered water, but the human athletes are going to be swimming and competing literally in a cesspool. It's absolutely filthy. I was honored in 1996 to be asked to be one of the announcers at the Olympics in Atlanta, Georgia. And it was right during the middle of my rodeo season, and I had to fly back and forth. In the evenings, I had a rodeo performance in Utah, and I'd jump on a plane in Salt Lake and fly down to Atlanta, do the day performances of Atlanta, fly back, do the rodeo at night. Oh, yeah, yours truly was meeting himself coming and going. But the Olympics down in Atlanta, Georgia, proved to me how absolutely successful, how absolutely caring, how absolutely professional all the people connected with the Olympics can be. But then when I look at the Olympic Committee picking as a location Rio de Janeiro, and the absolutely, I don't even know, despicable, I guess, comes to mind. Water and environmental concerns for our athletes or any athlete in the world, they should have stopped this and changed locations. As a matter of fact, one of the subheadlines in the newspaper this morning said, raw human sewage, and then the subheadline says, experts to Rio athletes, quote, don't put your head underwater. Don't put your head underwater. Oh, my Lord. What a mess this Olympics is going to be. Hey, by the way, I want to tell you that another fair is going to be starting up next week, and that's the Jerome County Fair and Rodeo. And I'll tell you what, we're going to have those folks on the air with us, and they're going to be talking about what's going to happen on Friday, August 12th, right in the main arena at the Jerome County Fair. They're going to have the first ever Redneck Olympics. They're going to have events like the herd feeder, tires, the hay bale wall, military attack, agility ropes, tire jumps, mud pit, hay stealing contest. I'm telling you, this is going to be a lot of fun. I got to get over there and see this at the Jerome County Fair and Rodeo. The big PRCA Rodeo is going to be on Wednesday and Thursday, August 10th and 11th. Don't miss any of it. All the fun at the Jerome County Fair and Rodeo, August 9th through the 13th. You be there. All right, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. The one thing about Atlanta, when I was down there for the Olympics, is, like I said, everything was so well organized. And, of course, you remember they had a bomb go off in Atlanta in the park area, and from that point on, security was heightened to a level 3 security. And helicopters flying overhead in case they needed SWAT teams to drop down at a moment's notice. And I can remember sitting there at the Equine Arena that held about 85,000 people. And I can remember during the event itself looking up into the sky and seeing and hearing overhead at least 2 helicopters at every venue during the Olympics. Literally, like I said, that at any trouble, any notice, down they would come and try to quash and quell the problem. And it really kept people on edge. I know after the bomb had gone off, our security of getting into the Olympic grounds, we had to wear and have on our person so much security information and identification that, holy buckets, you didn't want to say or do the wrong thing. And when we checked in, if we came in the same vehicle every day, we had to sit in the same seat in the car and or automobile, whatever it might be. They were tough. And it was run so professionally. And then I look at Rio with the mess that they've had in trying to secure security forces. And yesterday we had a story on the air as to where now they're going to bring in the Brazilian police. It's such a fragmented mess. I worry about our athletes at the Olympics. We're going to take a little break, and we're going to come back, and Dr. History today is not going to be Dr. Ken Turner. It's going to be Bev and Gary Stone, and they're going to be talking about living and eating and trying to survive on the Oregon Trail right through this area, and as a matter of fact, right through some of their property. And we're going to have that coming up at 10:06. And then Dudley Hall's going to be on the air at 10:30 talking about Donald Trump and the Khan family. Don't go away. I'll be back. Zeb at the Ranch. Oh, my goodness sakes, last hour. We're on the sprint to the last lap. Good morning, Zeb at the Ranch. And, of course, with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers, including Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Give them a call, 734-6969. Before we get our guests on the air and have our next segment, I want to remind you, too, about our dear friends that are supporting the Cassia County Fair and Rodeo for this year, August 15th through the 20th, and they include Streamline Bit my tongue. Streamline Precision with Tim and the whole crew at 120 South, 100 West of Burley, 678-9204. Streamline Precision would like to do a great big shout out to all of our policemen and firemen in this area who risk their lives every day to protect us. Don't forget the best. Streamline Precision. Thank you very much. Along with Rain for Rent, 134 South, 600 West of Paul. Rain for Rent is the leading provider of liquid handling solutions from pumps, tanks, and filtration devices, hoses, everything you need. You be sure and get a hold of them. Family owned and operated since 1934, serves all 50 states. Rain for Rent. And Pickett Equipment Company, 976 East Main in Burley. My goodness, my old buddy Steve and the whole crew at Pickett Equipment Company, with, of course, the one-step rod cutter, the Twin Master edible bean combines, all of this and more. Pickett Equipment Company, 678-2855, or go to their website, www.pickettequipment.com. Right now, it's time for Dr. History. And with that being said, Dr. History is not with us today, but we've got some guest hosts that are going to step in and share their knowledge. And, of course, Dr. History is brought to you by Mini-Cash Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport with Zach and the whole crew. And they've got all your roofing material, all your lumber, all the shingles, all the metal or asphalt shingles, and, of course, the upgrading of the best of windows for your home with the Western Windows, where you can save on heating or cooling bills. They are the best. Mini-Cash Sales, Zach and his entire operation saying, hey, stay tuned now for Dr. History. And with us on the phone line this morning, some very, very dear friends. Good morning to Bev Stone in Kimberly. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm just fine. It's a beautiful day.
Well, it is always a beautiful day when I get a chance to visit with you folks. And Bev, you have, along with your wonderful husband, Gary, you've documented exactly through writing and through paintings exactly what took place on the Oregon Trail. And, of course, Gary depicts the life on his paintings, and you've written about it from reading all the diaries, etc. Really, what kind of a daily grind was it on the Oregon Trail, especially when we talk about going through this area?
Going through this area was a lot better than some and a lot worse than others. The whole Oregon Trail was more of an ordeal. Today's people would consider it just that, a practice of survival. But we have to remember that in those days, it was kind of a lifestyle for those people, not necessarily the travel, but the methods they used and the food they ate and that kind of thing, which we would feel today was not doable. But when they began, it was usually in April. They waited until the grasses were green on the prairie and there'd be food for the animals. The food for the animals was a major, major consideration. They really couldn't carry food for the animals, so they would have to go to places for animals to graze and have something to eat and water.
Now,
so
Bev,
the animals were major consideration, almost before themselves.
Now, Bev,
so it was kind of an ordeal, especially in that regard. When they finally got over the summit and they were on the Oregon side of the mountains, it became a totally different trip. There was a lot more hazardous, rugged travel, but the food was better. And the food, they could have berries. Women talked about baking pies, rolling out the dough on the seat of the wagon as they traveled. To me, that was amazing. And then, by the time they got to camp, it would be ready to put in the Dutch oven.
Okay, but now
that was a good thing. They got the berries, and then when they got into our area, they had a totally new food menu item, and that was the fish, the trout. And at the time of the year they came through here, salmon were running as far up as Rock Creek, clear up to the mountain headwaters to spawn. They couldn't make it past Shoshone Falls, but the salmon was a genuine taste treat. And they talked about the plentiful salmon being so much in the streams you could practically walk across on their bodies.
Wow.
And they grabbed everything they could that would hold anything, towels, aprons, pans, buckets, whatever they had, and began scooping the fish out of the creek.
Now,
Small thing, because some of those fish were pretty big.
now, Bev, let me...
I myself have seen a fish too large for the creek it was in and tried to jump in and grab it, and really all you got was wet.
Okay.
But the Indians showed them how to dry the salmon, and so smoked salmon became a menu item that they really relished. Going across the prairies was pretty tough, and depending on the year, there was sometimes stuff they could eat, buffalo to find, game, that type of thing. But some were reduced to eating what they called prairie shrimp, and that was grasshoppers. And that was a term I had never heard until I read Oregon Trail Diaries.
All right, now,
it was a real knowledgeable trip.
Bev, let me jump in here. Bev, let me jump in for a minute and ask you a couple of questions. Okay, sure, they came through this area, and, of course, the salmon and the trout were plentiful. Okay, that's just part of the diet. But what did they eat with the lack of water? I mean, they couldn't have loaves of bread or biscuits. I mean, certainly they had to have something else to supplement the fish.
Well, they did. They had a few berries and that kind of thing, but they had the beans. They carried beans along. They carried flour, sugar, coffee. They started out with bacon, lots of stuff that you would on any trip. But food supplies got pretty low when the trip began to take longer than they thought. And certainly they always had beans for some reason. They had plenty of beans, and beans kept well. But if they were out of flour, they were in trouble. And their only chance for resupply would be like at Fort Hall near Pocatello or Fort Boise, which is self-explanatory. There was, after the Civil War, a little outpost constructed at Rock Creek down here south of Kimberly and Hanson area, and they could obtain some supplies there. But prior to the Civil War, they were just out of luck going through here, and they went many days, sometimes without water.
Wow.
And the water was critical for the animals. So at times, they preferred to give the water to the animals. They couldn't have them maybe drink, but they could wet their noses and help the animals in that regard. If the animals gave out, they were done.
Well, now, when you talk about the water, let's just talk about that for a moment. I mean, the only ways of taking it with you were like the wooden vats that they had on the side of their wagons or whatever, and that water sloshing around in the heat and everything else, that must not have been the most sanitary of drinking water.
Well, it wasn't, and that's a lot of times why they got cholera, dysentery, all kinds of bad things that took many lives on the Oregon Trail. Animals died from lack of food and water, and sometimes their bodies were in the water upstream that people simply didn't know about. And so there was a lot of illness and bad water. And at times the water was so full of alkali that it couldn't be consumed. Alkali poisoning was fairly common through this area. And that's that white stuff that gathers on the surface of the soil. You've seen it at times, and you see it around the edges of water. And that's alkali.
Well, you know, the kids and the families,
That's why so many died on the Oregon Trail. It's been called the longest graveyard in the world.
Absolutely.
Most of the graves unmarked.
Now, the kids and the families, I mean, it must have been really difficult when you think about today's families and you think about the kids and, Johnny, don't do this. Susie, get over here. Behave yourself. I mean, it must have been really tough on the parents trying to raise kids in, a 3.5, 4 month journey across America, trying to keep the kids in line, trying to keep them walking. I mean, the crying and the suffering and the pain and the hungry. I mean, that must have been really tough.
It was really tough. When they got over the pass, South Pass, and they got down into the Pacific drainage here, they came a new word into the language that they'd never heard, most of them. It was called canyon. We're all familiar with that. And this lava rock was full of crevices and holes and et cetera. And it became a real fear, especially to moms, that their children would wander too far away and slip into a crack and be lost. I wasn't able to see anything like that really written in the diaries, but people did slip in and get injured. And sometimes, one instance, a fellow dropped his rifle down in the crack of the lava, and when he reached down to get the rifle, it discharged and killed him.
Oh, my.
Bizarre stuff. They wanted those kids to stay inside at all times, and pretty hard to do, but when you're walking all that ways, you get pretty tired. Kids are more resilient, and although they all had chores to do, when those wagons stopped for food, everybody knew what chores they had to do. They had to take care of the animals, they had to gather something to burn for the fire, and that was mostly to the children. If there was water available, they hauled water, and so they were kept busy. There was also the bedrolls and to lay out, or the blankets, whatever they were going to sleep on that night. But everybody had chores, and kids didn't have much choice in those days. They had to do their share, or everybody was going to be miserable.
One of the questions
they didn't talk that much about it.
Yeah.
In the diaries.
One of the questions, Bev, that I've got is that a lot of the times they walked every single day and did not ride in the wagon, which leads me to ask, what about their footwear? Did most of them end up going barefoot? I mean, did they have to walk across the rocks and all the other spiny, tickly things that were on the ground? I mean, what did they do to protect their feet?
Their feet were really important, and I myself found that out while on the Oregon Trail. They carried equipment and shoe lasts and that type of thing for sizing their shoes to cut leather. If an animal died, they could save the skin and make shoes out of it, a certain amount of clothing, things they learned from the Indians. And they also traded with the Indians for moccasins. But even on a moccasin won't last long on the rocks and the rough terrain they had first. So feet were really important, and they used the toughest leather they could find, and that's really all they had for their shoes. The soles would wear out, and they'd put a new leather over the top of the old sole and cut them with their knives. Everybody carried big knives, Bowie knives or heavy-duty pocket knives, hunting knife type. And everybody knew how to make their own shoes.
Mm-hmm.
That was something that was simply done. Just like we today, we know how to make certain things ourselves, and we all just knew how to do it.
Well, now,
like everybody knew how to build a campfire.
Well, now let me ask you this question, Bev.
But those people were experts.
Bev, let me ask you this question. When it came to what was in the wagon, what they brought with them, how much did they actually bring? I mean, were they kind of dedicated to maybe so many pounds or so many garments or so many pots and pans? I mean, how did they know what to take and what they could get by with?
What they took was minimal. Some only had one or two changes of clothing. Everything in those days was absolutely handmade. And the men wore different kind of slacks then than they do now. They were made of wool or cotton. A lot of it was loomed by hand or felted, which was an art in those days, but really an art in these days. They made everything that they took, and they took needle and thread in order to patch everything. And when things were beyond repair, they saved scraps of it for patches. And clothing had to last. As far as food, that was their most important thing to take. They took as many 100 pounds of flour as they could. And that was the big commodity. Flour and beans, sugar, and coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Tea, if they had it. Tea was a very expensive commodity in those days. But that was their main staple. If they were able to dry fruit at home, they took dried fruit. Some took milk cows along so they could have milk along the trail. it was never very cold, but they would take the cream off the milk, separate it out, and then put the cream in a bucket, hang it on the side of the wagon, and by the end of the day, they had butter.
Oh, my.
So it was not up to our standards, perhaps, but edible.
Absolutely.
Maybe not so tasty, but taste wasn't so important as the amount of food they could consume and get something in their bellies.
Now, with the study that you and Gary have done over the years on the Oregon Trail, one question that comes to mind when we look way back to the 1840s when they first started coming across on the Oregon Trail, what about the supply wagons? What about the supply areas? What about the Stricker stores and that type of thing? When did they come into existence, and when did they start across our Northwest supply routes to refurnish and refurbish what the pioneers needed?
The original supply points were ports, fur trading posts that were set up for the mountain men to get supplies and trade in their furs, like at Fort Bridger and Fort Hall and Fort Boise. There were very few supply points, really, but some of those then turned into supply points for immigrants. In fact, every one of them did. And enterprising mountain men also took up places where they had their own little sort of a fort, they called them, a store where they could supply the immigrants for their certain amount of food and goods. But the goods then were not like the goods we know now, and flour and that type of thing were really hard to come by and very expensive. A certain amount of them took money with them, but money was only useful in those areas where they could get supplies. It was really, really a rugged hardship.
What about Bev, what about the protection? I've only got time to answer one more question in this segment, but I want to ask you this. What about their protection? Were they stocked up on rifles or pistols or ammunition? What did they use to protect themselves, whether from the elements with the bears, etc., or even the wandering Indian tribes?
They had their rifles. They were different a little bit than what we knew today, unless they had the new repeating rifles, but most of them were kind of like muzzle loaders and early day guns that were difficult to shoot. Every shot had to count. And when they had to load them, they loaded them, the muzzles and the balls. They had to shoot the balls. You had to shove them down and pour the powder in before you could shoot again. So it was a real problem, along with the Indians. Indians weren't really a problem until there became so many going across the plains after the gold rush.
I see.
In the 50s, 1850s and 60s, things were disappearing, including the buffalo and the food for the Indians. And the animals on the Oregon Trail were consuming the food that the buffalo and the wild game needed. So that's when the trouble began, because prior to that time, they wouldn't have been able to know how to cross streams or how to dry the fish or how to make certain things out of game hides if they hadn't been shown by the Indians.
Give me
how to make what they called bowl boats, hides of the buffalo to float across the rivers on.
Right.
It was simply a skin framed by willow, and it would stay afloat long enough to get across the rivers. But they learned a lot from the Indians, and so protection from the animals and the Indians wasn't as important until the travel time on the Oregon Trail was nearly over.
I see.
When the railroad was joined, that kind of put an end to Oregon Trail travel, although we did have reminiscences of people that traveled as early as the 1900s, or as late as the 1900s, on the Oregon Trail because it was cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
But by then there were more towns in existence. I cannot express how difficult it was to try and get your family across to a new land and settle the country for the rest of us to have a good life.
Amen.
People were so hardy and so non-complaining. There were not major injuries. Major injuries were the only things recorded in the diary. When you stop and think about harnessing animals and all the rocks that rolled and all the stuff you had to lift and the smashed fingers and skinned shins and broken arms even were very seldom even mentioned. It was even babies that were born were not necessarily mentioned until after the fact. A lot of those women were pregnant on the trail,
right.
And that had to be just simply an ordeal.
Absolutely.
But they kept at it until they got where they could have their own place, food and water to raise a crop or a garden. All they needed was something for their own subsistence.
Absolutely.
They weren't necessarily looking for a town. They were just looking for a place to have food and raise a family.
There you go.
Oh, they really wanted.
You know, Bev, I appreciate your coming on the program this morning, and you and my dear friend Gary, God bless you for all your knowledge of what happened on the Oregon Trail. I'm going to have you back in the future so we can talk more about this. But Bev Stone, Gary Stone, God bless you, and thank you for being on my program this morning.
Thank you. Thank you, Zeb. Thanks for having us.
All right, God bless. I hear Gary in the background. God bless you. Thank you so much. That is Dr. History for today with some wonderful folks that have been friends of mine for years, Gary and Bev Stone, and they really do know all about the Oregon Trail. And I'll tell you some folks that know all about lumber packages and your shingles and your windows, and they've got all the Tartar Farm and Ranch gates and panels. That's, of course, Mini-Cash Sales. Hello, Zach, over at 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. Got questions? Give them a call. 878-2091. Believe me, they are outstanding. We've worked with them in the past, got doors, etc. for my home. They are really the nicest people to work with at Mini-Cash Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, bringing you Dr. History. Oh, by the way, too, we have a segment on Thursdays called Cassia County School Days, and I want to emphasize the fact and thank two great sponsors of that segment. And first of all, A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. Come on downtown to Burley to A Child's World and shop locally. They've got the best of all the clothing and all the children's furniture, everything. You stop in today and meet some really nice people at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley, along with the Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland in Burley. Number to call, 677-8888 for your outpatient surgeries such as life-saving colonoscopies and glaucoma surgery. They've got the only machine in all of southern Idaho for glaucoma. Stop in, call, please. The Ambulatory Surgery Center, 677-8888, along with A Child's World, bringing you school days in Cassia County. Right now, we'll send it back over to our main studios. We'll be back in 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you very much and welcome back. We'll have our guest on in just a moment. Stand by. I want to tell you all about another great county fair, the Jerome County Fair and Rodeo, August 9th through the 13th at the Jerome County Fairgrounds in Jerome. It's going to start on the 19th, my goodness, with the Main Street Parade. And then on the 10th and 11th, they're going to have the big PRCA Rodeo. And then on Friday, they're going to have what they call the Redneck Olympics at the Rodeo Arena at 7 p.m. Wow, this is going to be fun with all kinds of different events called the hay bale wall, the agility ropes, tire jumps, hay stealing contest. Don't miss it. It's going to be fun. The Redneck Olympics at the Jerome County Fair. And then on Saturday, August 13th, don't forget the big stock sale and the Action Sports Stunt Show at 7 p.m. All of this and more at your Jerome County Fair and Rodeo, August 9th through the 13th in Jerome. Let's go to the phone line right now, and our next guest is waiting for us, patiently, I hope. And we'd like to say good morning to Dudley Hall, writing for The Stream. Good morning, Dudley. How you doing?
Good, Zeb. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I guess maybe I'm going to have to plead some ignorance here. I cannot, for the life of me, since last night I had the papers on what we were going to talk about in my hand. I read them before I walked into my studio, and I misplaced them. But the gist of what I think we're going to talk about this morning is what you term, writing for the stream, as an alarming weakness in Donald Trump. And go ahead and take it from there.
Yeah, Stream is a site, a news site that is attempting to give some kind of Christian perspective to what's going on in the world, news events. And so part of our job, we feel like, is to equip those who care, Christians and others, in how to think through the issues from a Christian worldview. And so one of the things is what our responsibilities are toward our leaders and potential leaders. And so, what I wrote was kind of instructions of how we should pray for our leaders. And when I got to Trump, I said we should pray specifically. And the specific thing that I see is that he seems to have a compulsion to not be able to take an offense, criticism, but to put other people down, reduce them to nicknames and monikers, and gets totally distracted from what a leader should be doing to trying to defend his own honor. And I think the straw that kind of broke the camel's back for many was this latest dust-up, where he criticizes the family of a fallen soldier. So because we care about our nation and we care about who's going to be leading us, I think we should be concerned about this kind of flaw that's in a potential leader. And those who would be for Trump should be praying for him, and those who are against him should be praying for him, because he could be the leader. And this kind of weakness, this kind of flaw, could not only keep him from being elected, it could keep him from ruling well. So that's the kind of the gist of what the article was about.
Boy, we've got a lot to talk about in a short period of time. Dudley, let me just respond by saying, and I know this isn't right, it's kind of a grade school approach to the problem, but when you look at the other side of the aisle with the lies and the innuendos and the slanderous remarks, the same can be said and or worse for Hillary and the Democrats.
Absolutely. The day before, I had an article on Stream talking about how to pray for Hillary, and what I tried to identify there was the pragmatism, the genuine pragmatism of it doesn't seem to matter what's right, it's what works. And so I see on that side of the whole thing too. So yeah, we should be as concerned there. But I think all of us who try to think sanely realize that to go on just with name-calling and lying and all of that is really not getting the issues out there, and it's really not helping the voter to know who are these people and what's going to be the real issues there. Another thing I think is it's distracting people to some personalities and distracting us away from the real values we should be voting on this year. We should really be concerned about the protection of innocent lives. We should be concerned about religious liberty. We should be concerned about same-sex marriage. We should be concerned about a lot of important things that are not being talked about adequately because we're so focused on who's getting the last shot in and who's made the other person most demeaned. And I think that's unfortunate, and it should concern Christians. It really should concern everybody.
I totally agree with your remarks, but let me throw something, a little fly into the milk, if I may. I said first hour this morning that there were two parties that were involved in the Democratic National Convention and the Republican National Convention that maybe should not have spoken at those respective events. One, Pat Smith, mother of Benghazi victim. She was up at the podium, and quite frankly, as a mother should, be very concerned for other mothers and other children because she lost her son, and she blamed Hillary and called Hillary a liar because of her so-called miscues over Benghazi, and I believe they are true. On the other side of the coin, you had the Khan family at the Democratic convention stand up and go after and belittle Donald Trump, to which he responded. However, I would say this. Since the Khan family has been discussed and they had their speech at the Democratic National Convention, it has been brought out and found out that Mr. Khan has written extensively about Sharia law in this United States and possibly taking over as a judiciary for our country. And the media has not, I think, been fair. They came out and criticized Mrs. Smith, and they absolutely put on a pedestal the Khan family. So I think there's been two different approaches by the media.
Well, I couldn't agree more, Deb. But we expect that from the media. That is not a surprise to any of us. And if it's a surprise to Mr. Trump, then he hadn't been paying attention. But he fell into the trap that was set for him. And so he made Hillary look good because she did not come out and criticize the woman. She said she sympathized with her grief. Whereas Mr. Trump felt like he had to come out stronger and win that battle by demeaning. I just think it was very unwise. And my concern is that he it's not the first time he's done this, obviously, and my concern is that it's a pattern. It's a flaw. It's something that needs to be corrected, and I believe it can be corrected by the gospel, by an encounter with God. I'm not just talking about tweaking our speeches here. I'm talking, my article was about let's pray. God works in the supernatural and changes people, and for his own sake, I would like to see him change, and for the sake of the country, I'd like to see him change.
We are looking this year, Dudley, at, in my opinion, tell me if you think I'm wrong, I think it's going to be the most critical election ever in the history of our country, and with two of the least liked candidates. There are flaws and there are holes in the screen door of both candidates, whether it's Hillary or Trump. And I'm looking at the situation where one is an avowed liar. She's lied about Benghazi, lied about emails, lied about the different happenings with the Clinton Foundation and their money. On the other side of the coin, we've got a very headstrong, very egotistical candidate in Trump. He's going to do it his way, lower his chin to his chest, and bulldoze right on through. Wow. Is the American public going to turn out and vote for either one of them?
Yeah, that's a great question, Zeb, and I don't know. I know a lot of Christians that I talk to are going to skip the top person on the ticket, and they're going to vote values. They're going to go down and vote for senators and congressmen and whatever that are aligning with their values and are actually kind of skipping the top of the ticket. I'm not advocating that. I don't think we can just stand by and just let nothing happen, but I do think it is. I don't know if it's the most important one in history, but it's certainly the most important one that I have any remembrance of.
When you look at the overall premise of what they stand for or don't stand for, what they're advocating, I'm going to be very blunt with you, Dudley. I cannot accept any of the platform of the Democratic Party. I don't like where they're headed with the LGBT. I don't like where they're headed on abortion. I don't like where they're headed on higher taxes. I don't like where they're headed on national security. And when you look at Christian values, I think it's about high time or past time that Christians stood up and let their voices be heard, but yet they're still cowering behind the back seat of the pew. Would you agree with that or not?
I totally agree with that. I think, the two biggest issues, I think, there are lots of big issues, but the two biggest issues are the protection of innocent life, the abortion issue. Secondly, is religious liberty. There's a reason religious liberty, or liberty of conscience, is the first of the Bill of Rights, because without it, none of the others make any difference. And the Democratic Party seems to be going in the wrong direction on both of those, and there would be, no way to support that. I mean, we've had 58 million babies killed. And that's unacceptable. That's murder. I don't know what else you want to call it, and I don't know how we could support that kind of thing. There are many flaws in the Republican platform, and nobody expects them to fit all of us. That's why they're voters, why we have a democratic republic. But I totally agree that the direction is very distinct. It's not close. If you look at them, it would be very easy to see where the values are. The problem is that the people at the head of the ticket, we're having problems with.
You know, I've said on my program many times, Dudley, and I really appreciate you being on the show this morning. I can tell you've got a great principled Christian mind, and I like having you on here. But I have said that if pastors and church leaders and we as congregate members don't stand up and be very vocal, we have only ourselves to blame for the death of Christianity in this country. Would you agree?
I would. You know, Jesus said we're salt and light, and for us to criticize the darkness simply because we refuse to get involved as the light is to be stupid, if you forgive my bluntness. And for us to, as salt, to pull out of the society and then wonder why it's rotting is to be foolish. And we've done that for several reasons. You know, one is that we seem to believe that the gospel is all about going to heaven instead of giving us life and letting us get busy about occupying and influencing the world we live in. You know, the other is that the church should stay out of politics, that because it's controversial we should stay out of it. We might lose our 501c3. That's cowardice. There are lots of reasons why we have been uninvolved, and we're simply reaping what we've sown by our uninvolvement.
I couldn't agree more, and I want to ask you one final thought, and I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just being very blunt and honest. Have we gone so far down that secular interstate that we can't turn this thing around?
You know, if I just looked at the observation, you know, I would be tempted to say that, but because I've seen God turn my own life around, I believe God can do anything, and I believe it's not going to be turned around by an election, but it could be turned around by the people of God really submitting to the Lordship of Christ, getting busy about doing what He told us to do on this earth, loving our neighbor, sharing the gospel, trying to make political structures that bless everybody, not just us. If we got involved and took seriously our responsibility, then I think, it can be turned around.
I want to say thank you to Dudley Hall, writing for The Stream. Sir, you are more than welcome to come back, and I certainly hope you'll accept my invitation in the future.
Thank you. I enjoyed talking to you, Zeb.
All right, sir. God bless, and thank you very, very much. Very nice man right there. Dudley Hall, writing for The Stream in regards to Donald Trump better start to clean up his act a little bit. He's got it to win. He's got this election to win if he changes, refines, and polishes some of his rough edges. I know there's quite a few to polish, but I still think he can do this, and I still think there's time, especially before the presidential debates. Your thoughts are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And it's time for the weather. And the weather is brought to you by Scarro's Meats. 331 North Road, Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657. They are your hometown meat cutter. Locally owned and custom meat processor for over 20 years with Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew, changing the way we eat one delicious bite at a time. And right now, here's the weather with Gina.
Another beautiful day here in our area, and today is going to be nice. A little bit on the humid side if it feels like it's a little bit muggy. That's because humidity is sitting at about 60%. Sunny is what we're expecting for today. High of 96, overnight low of 57. Tomorrow, winds kicking up out of the west, right around 20 miles an hour. That is not going to be helping our fire suppression efforts. Still sunny skies, high of 81, overnight low of 47. Winds dying down for Thursday. Sunny skies, high of 87. Then it looks like partly cloudy skies for Friday and a high of 85. That is your weather for Zebit the Radio.
Appreciate it, Gina. Thank you very much. Brought to you by Scarro's Meats. Don Scarrow and his entire crew at 331 North Road, Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat one delicious bite at a time. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436 Wheels, I'm going to ask you over at the station to turn things up just a little bit coming to me. It was really faint during that last guest, and I had some trouble hearing him. I visited with Wheels a little bit yesterday afternoon, last evening, as a matter of fact, and then also I wanted to get him on the air this morning. Turn your microphone on for a minute, young man. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
Well, now, you had a little bit of a fender bender. Are you okay?
I am. I'm obviously back to work and everything. I just kind of needed the day off yesterday to get my car back from the towing yard, and yeah.
Well, now, I understand that your vehicle is maybe not going to be in the real world anymore.
No, she's far out of existence right now. She's
Okay.
she's pretty gone. She was great and all. I mean, don't get me wrong, she starts and everything and she turns over, but her front end's just it's gone. It's pretty torn.
Well, now let me ask you this question, and for the audience out there, and Wheels, I'm certainly not trying to embarrass you in any way, shape, or form, but you are in a wheelchair. You need a special vehicle, and you need something that can be applicable to being able to handle the wheelchair, get it in the vehicle, etc. What kind of a vehicle are you looking for?
Well, to be honest, I've looked at things from hatchbacks where the seats go flat in the back, kind of like to where you can store extra things. I've looked at minivans. I've looked at pickups just because of the fact they got the arm crane things that sit in the back of the truck and then it swoops out and then picks the chair up with the hooks and then puts it in kind of like a dolly. I've looked at quite a few things like that, and I haven't came up with anything yet. My mom let me know that we have this one lady that we know pretty well that has the same minivan, kind of like mine.
Okay.
But it's black and everything, and it's not exactly like my car. My car was one of a kind, and so I'm going to have to figure out something as far as maybe try and see if I can buy that one car from her that's exactly to mine.
All right. Well, now, here's what I want to do. I want to try to offer assistance and help, and I know that there's others in the audience that may want to help also. And I want you to keep us apprised of what you need and what you're looking at, and we'll see if we can't do something to kind of assist you a little bit, because I'm very, very impressed with the job you do, not only for me, but other things you do for the radio station, and also your attendance at Lunch Bunch. You come from a very nice family, and we'll do all we can to assist you, okay?
Well, thank you, sir. That means a lot, and I will definitely keep you informed on what I can find, and we'll go from there, maybe.
All right. Well, now, may I suggest one thing?
Yes, sir.
Look both ways.
I will keep that in mind for next time. I've kind of came to the realization that once I can get back up and going again, I'm not taking that road.
Okay. God bless you, Wheels, and thank you very much. And let us know what's going on, okay?
Definitely.
All right. Thank you. I want to remind everybody about your Magic Valley summer travel time with your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, you're leaving to see Aunt Martha and Uncle Fred over in Gunnison, Colorado. Oh, you're going to see Grandma Ruth down in Phoenix. Well, whatever you're going to do, whoever you're going to see, you got to have safe tires. Well, the best in tires, safe tires, are at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, my goodness, all the different tread designs, everything to fit your vehicle, whether it's a car, a pickup, SUV, whatever, they've got the tires. And they have the best in brake service. Better make sure your brakes are working. Front end alignments, shocks and struts, batteries, it's all there. It's all there at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Yes, the best of service from your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You stop in and see those good folks today. Quick reminder, Thursday night at the Roper Auditorium in Twin, don't forget my dear friend Brigitte Gabriel, author of many books, including Because They Hate, a survivor of Islamic terror, warning America about what's happening with ISIS and Al-Qaeda and Islamic terror. Brigitte Gabriel is going to be at the Roper Auditorium on Filer Avenue at 7 p.m. this Thursday, and I urge you to go and be in attendance. And this lady tells it like it is. She's been featured on almost every news talk show in the business. Hannity, O'Reilly, Greta Van Susteren, Laura, everybody. And she knows, these are the key words, she knows what she's talking about. So please remember this Thursday, Brigitte Gabriel at the Roper Auditorium on Filer Avenue in Twin Falls at 7 p.m. What have we got cooking for tomorrow? Well, of course, my dear friend back in Indianapolis, Indiana, Dave Beagle's going to be on the air. We're also going to have a visit from one of the most popular guests that we have on our program, and many, many people want him back every week, and that's Curtis Ellis. And we're going to be talking about the election. We're going to be talking about the RNC and the DNC, what happened and what's happening now with the repercussions with Trump and Hillary. We're going to be talking about Hillary and the mess that is still recurring over her emails that some think are still being held by the NSA, and they know where each and every one of those 30,000 emails are. So don't miss tomorrow morning's program. It's going to be good. Starting at 8:06, we'll ride the horse for 3 hours and go till 11 o'clock right here on K-Bar 1230 AM and streaming live on the internet, ZebBell.com. And remember, the way things were are the way things ought to be. See you tomorrow morning.